Hello and welcome to today's CB Leadership Circle with Brett Mooney, President and CEO of American Express Canada. Brett joined in January 2023 after previously working at American Express between 2002 and 2014. Before taking on this role, Brett was the regional president in Canada for TransUnion. Brett has more than 20 years of experience in the financial services industry and leads the Canadian business setting the strategic vision while focusing on driving continued growth, innovation, and customer solutions. Thank you so much for joining us today, Brett.
Thanks, Chantal. I'm happy to be here and looking forward to the discussion.
Appreciate it. So how are you? How are things going as we wrap up 2023?
Yeah, things are going really well. I mean, I've been enrolled for about 10 months. I've got a fantastic team, incredible culture, and great support. You know, from a business perspective, we're seeing incredible momentum across our organization globally as well as locally in Canada. And so we're feeling really good about the future here at American Express and how we provide and deliver products and services to enrich the lives of Canadians.
So great. So tell us about your career. How did you end up at American Express?
Well, believe it or not, Chantal, I'm a boomerang. And so I almost feel like I'm too old to be one, but I'm a boomerang. As you mentioned earlier, I've spent just over 20 years of my career. It's been across three different organizations and 13 different roles. I started back just in 2001 with American Express right out of school and spent 13 incredible years there. Had about 8 different roles focused on product, acquisition, risk, to name a few parts of the organization I spent time in. And was really enjoying the culture, the people, and the organization overall. Ultimately, though, my wife and I, we had a young family, and we were looking for a shorter commute, a little bit more balance in our lives. So we're moving to Oakville and decided to take a role with Scotiabank after 13 years with Amex. I spent about 7 years at Scotiabank, 3 different roles, mainly focused on cards, unsecured lending, and payments. Spent some time in their digital incubator, running product for the digital technology team. As you mentioned, spent some time at TransUnion and then came back to American Express earlier this year in January. And so I'm thrilled to be back. I mean, I think for me in my career journey, how I think about ending up at a different organization is across sort of 5 key dimensions. The first one is from a leadership perspective. So I think anytime you're looking at a different role or a different organization, you should first focus on the quality and caliber of the leadership. And so thankfully at American Express, I think it's top notch. Second is culture, right? Make sure that culturally you're a fit, right? You're wired in the same way, your moral compass aligns with that of the organization. The third for me would be just a strategic position of the firm. And so you want to make sure that the firm is set up for the trajectory that you're looking for in terms of success, in terms of a growth orientation, if that's what you're after. The fourth thing I look for is the ability to make an impact. So do I have enough of the core foundational skills to be able to truly have an impact in the organization and the role that I take on? And then lastly, while I want to make an impact and have enough of the foundational skills, I also want to make sure there's a percentage that's a form of development and taking a role that affords you that. And so I think with this new role, right, it checks all the boxes from a leader, or culture, strategic orientation of the firm. Certainly, I have hopefully the ability to have an impact coming in with a lot of payments history and knowledge, but also a lot of development areas for me in a role this size and a role where I'm looking across, a broader business that is both commercial and consumer in nature.
Sounds like a pretty great journey up until now. So what role did mentorship play in building your career?
Yeah, mentorship's it's been incredibly advantageous to me. I mean, I've been fortunate over my career to have what I would believe is some of the most talented leaders as mentors, both domestically and across the globe. I tend to think about mentorship in 3 forms. The first form is when you're seeking a skill. So you could land in a new role or a new organization, and you need to learn how a technology platform works, or you need to learn how we allocate capital or manage liquidity. And so it could be somebody beside you, below you, above you. It doesn't matter. It's really somebody that can help you hone a skill to be more effective in your role. The second way I've used mentorship is when you're seeking context. And so in any role, you want to broaden your aperture, right? You want to strengthen your perspective from a macroeconomic standpoint or just from a macro environmental standpoint. And so find somebody, typically that is either outside of the organization or within the organization, a few levels above you, that can provide that broader context. And then lastly, and I think the one that is maybe underutilized, is role-seeking mentorships. And so I've used in my career this concept where if I identify an organization or a business unit or a team that I'd like to work in at some point in the future, how do you create a relationship with the hiring leader before the job posting goes up? And so how do you work with them to demonstrate through a mentorship what you're capable of, the skills that you possess, and what you could bring to the team, so they have you in mind before that job even comes available.
So speaking of teams, culture, hybrid work, DEI, it's interesting out there right now. So how have you been managing culture at American Express Canada?
Yeah, we're fortunate at Amex that we have an incredible culture, right? It's a culture that's built on trust, integrity, innovation, collaboration, and so it's not just me saying this. I think we've been well recognized over the course of this year and in years past by major publications such as Media Corp, Globe and Mail, Forbes, as best place to work, best diversity employer, best employer for young people. And so I think for us, it's great to have that recognition, but what we focus on day in and day out is that the best way to back our customers is to first back our colleagues. And we do that by making sure we're highly supportive of them. We're creating that right culture built on some of those behaviors or attributes that I mentioned earlier. And we want to make sure that we've also supported them through this journey. And so for us, culture kind of bleeds into your second part of the question, which is hybrid. And so we purposely, through this 4-year journey, it's hard to believe, right? We're pretty much at 4 years from the start of the pandemic. We've been heavily focused on making sure that we support our colleagues in their journey. And it has been a journey. And so we've implemented programs like Amex Flex, which allows our colleagues now to work from home. We used to be 5 days in the office pre-pandemic. We're now moving to 3 days in the office starting in 2024. And we have great programs that are part of this Amex Flex initiative, such as work from anywhere for 30 days every year. And so our colleagues can now work from a country abroad where they're legally permitted to do so. They can work from a cottage, or they can work from their place of residence or their home or their condo if something pops up in their personal lives and they need more time to be around where they live or spend time with people that are closer to them. On the innovation and diversity and equity question, we've doubled down, right? I think it's not just a buzzword or buzzwords for us. We've invested intentionally to build and foster a culture of belonging and inclusion across the company. We have 13 distinct networks. And so a couple examples would be Women's Interest Network. Another one that we launched recently this year was Disability Awareness Network, to help people understand those invisible and visible disabilities that exist and help educate the rest of our colleague base across all the different areas of focus of these networks. And we really take pride in making sure that it's sort of woven into our moral fabric and how we operate each and every day, because we truly believe that as an organization, right, with a diversity of thought and being more inclusive, will not only help the country, will not only help the communities we operate in, but will certainly help colleagues that choose to spend their time with us each and every day. Where are we going from here? I think the future is we're landing on more of a settling point. And so the future is more flexible than it was pre-pandemic. And I think that's important because we want to make sure that we're recognizing that there's a new way of doing things, that there is technology that can afford us the opportunity to work from home sometimes. But there's also an importance of being in the office for development, for building network, relationships, and for being a part of a team and contributing to the culture.
So when you speak of, innovation and working at a large, company like American Express Canada, is it harder to drive innovation in a large institution like yours?
Yeah, I don't think so. Right, and let me talk through that. For us, innovation starts with having a deep sense of customer centricity. Right, it's about solving customer problems. It's how do we enrich the lives of our card members each and every day? What's the next solution that we can provide to them that will do that? And it's really innovations something that we've done and we have a long history of doing. I mean, if you go way back, right, in Canada, we've been operating for 170 years. I think that's an impressive number when you think that of the Fortune 500 companies that existed 50 years ago, only 20% still exist today. And yet we've been operating for 170 years in Canada and 173 years as a global organization. And so, we've demonstrated that you need to innovate and you need to sometimes cannibalize yourself over the years to make sure that you're building a stronger and more formidable business. If you think about our origins in a freight forwarding company back in the 1850s, and then we launched traveler's checks in 1891, right? You could argue adjacent types of businesses, but not necessarily completely related. In 1915, we built out travel offices, recognizing the need for our card members or our customers at the time to have services outside of their home country. And then it wasn't actually until 1958 where we launched the first credit card. And there's a fairly famous internal memo that stipulates and states, we will cannibalize our traveler's checks business by launching credit cards. But I think that speaks to the importance of focusing on what are the customer needs, not what is the business that you'd like to have in the future. And so we intentionally launched credit cards knowing the impact it would have on traveler's checks. And obviously, it's been a fairly successful business for us globally. Is it harder being a large company? I don't think so. What I do think, though, is it's predicated on if you have the right values, principles, processes, and resources. And so if you value innovation from the top, if you allocate capacity for innovation, if you allocate capital for innovation, and you make that a focus, and you make sure you have the processes that underpin it to make sure that you can get to market quickly, right? That you can capture customer sentiment feedback through various listening posts, and that you have the resources, right? People lined up to support that innovation, then I actually think large organizations are better positioned than some of the smaller organizations to innovate if all those things are in the right place and set up in the right way.
Right. So when you think of innovation, AI comes to mind. With the rise of AI, how do you see emerging technologies driving change in financial services, particularly in Canada?
Yeah, I mean, let me start with it's not new, right? For us, from an AI perspective, it's something that we've been leveraging for quite some time. Maybe I'll back up though. Before that, AI will be transformative, right? And I would put it up there with the three other major developments that have happened, at least in my generation, from a technology standpoint. So if you think about the invention of the computer, and then the internet, and then the mobile phone. Now AI, I think, is the fourth that belongs at that same level in terms of the impact that it will have and the positive impact it will have in our personal lives as well as on commercial entities. But we have a long-standing history of enabling growth through innovation and leveraging emerging technologies, and AI would be one of those. And so in 2010, we were leveraging a form of AI, machine learning, in our fraud models to help make sure that we protected our card members at a market-leading level to ensure that they were able to transact, right? And we were able to identify potential fraudulent transactions through the use of AI. And so it's something that we're focused on. We obviously have global teams set up to support what this looks like for American Express. They tend to be focused on security, which we feel really, really good about, productivity and innovation. And so you'll continue to see more from us in this space. It's just going to be a matter of time. We're going to move with the right level of care, governance, and precision. But it's an exciting journey for sure.
Definitely an exciting time right now. So let's go into building your career. Someone is starting their own career. What three pieces of advice can you give them to help them get to, well, maybe your level?
Okay. Three key pieces, or can I do more than that?
You can do as many as you'd like.
Okay. It's tough to distill, right? And so I'll share some advice, but this is full recognition and disclosure, right? This is what's been helpful to me. But there's different formulas. The first one for me, right, and I think it's an important one, is figure out where your passions and your interests intersect with your talents, right? And so, I'll use the example of if I was passionate about doing home renovation projects, it might be a little bit of an uphill battle because my wife actually says I take equity out of the home when I pick up a hammer. And so I might have a passion for it, but my talent isn't quite there. And so could I work on it? Yes. But I think you want to find where do those two things intersect. And if you need to uplift your talent in an area to help have those two intersect, then that's what you should focus on. The second one I'd recommend is, and I talked about this in the article, is seek leaders and experiences, not jobs and levels, right? The right leader is the fastest path to development. Each and every day they can help you grow and develop much more than if you were in a situation where you weren't receiving that same level of coaching or feedback from your leader. From an experiences standpoint, careers are sort of made up of chapters. You want to make sure that you're building the right experiences to get you to where you want to go. And to shed a little bit more light on that, I mean, for me, experiences that I tend to look for are these kind of what I call essential leadership experiences that are durable, and durable in that they will stand the test of time through my career. And so for me, those are experiences in the area of strategic partnerships, data and analytics, technology, product management, those types of skills that will be advantageous in different organizations as you grow through your own organization and also over the course of decades. Third, I would say, is find the right culture. It's a long life if you're not lined up in terms of your moral compass with that of your enterprise. And so you want to find a culture that supports you, that you feel really good about, right? That you're energized by, and it aligns with your own sets of values and beliefs. The fourth is probably a pretty obvious one, right? But be intentional with your time. You want to make sure that you're spending time on the right things and in the right ways. I mean, it is our most scarce asset. And I think, look at how you spend time, whether it be through the year, through the month, the weeks, the days, or even the hours. And are you allocating enough time to sort of that deeper critical thinking, where you're coming up with a new way of doing things, or really defining the right problem statement? It's easy for us to come in and do what's asked of us each and every day. But I think how you get ahead and how you grow the most is when you're thinking beyond that, right? And you're taking that initiative. And then lastly, I would say there's no substitute for hard work, right? And grit. And so it's you need to be resilient, you need to be adaptable, and you need to work hard. And I think doing that, as long as your passions and your talents are intersecting, when you have the right leader in the right culture, right, and you're being intentional with your time, I think that's a good recipe to be successful. But as I said at the beginning, there's different ways to do it.
They're all great tips, Brett. I feel like there's just so much that you can learn as you get thrown into maybe tougher situations, right? And I feel like that's how you grow in your own journey. And there's so much to learn from that.
For sure. Yeah. You've got to be comfortable being uncomfortable, right? And I say to the teams that development happens just past the point of your comfort zone, right? And it sometimes isn't a comfortable place to be, but it's certainly an accelerated path for learning and development.
I truly believe that. These are great tips. So anything exciting coming up at American Express that you could share with us?
Listen, there's always something exciting coming up at American Express. I mean, can I share it with you? I think there's two areas that I can share for sure. One is on, you'll see us double down on our servicing ethos, right? We strive to be the most reputable, trusted brand in Canada in the financial services space. We want to make sure that we're supporting our card members to enrich their lives and get them to where they need to go and truly back them. And that's part one you'll see more of. Part two is a deeper focus on what we call the membership model. And so, we operate in the payment space, right, for the most part. But the payment utility is something, just if showing up at point of sale to make a transaction is commoditized, right? And what I'm proud of that our team has accomplished and done so well in the past, and you'll see more of in the future, is building around that in the membership model. And so strengthening our assets and strengthening how we enrich our card members' lives through the power of access, through entertainment, through dining, and through travel. In addition to the rewards that we offer them for their everyday spend. And so an example of that would be a recent F1 partnership, right? We're excited about the access that provides. We're excited about that partnership. And we've got a few more of those on the way that obviously I can't speak to now, but are keeping us busy and we're very excited about in Canada and across international.
That's really exciting. So this takes me to my last question. What's next for you?
For me, there's probably three things. The first one is we're in the middle of finalizing our strategic plan. That's a multi-year plan across our market, and so working closely with my team to determine, our North Star, our strategic objectives, our priorities, and the behaviors that will reward internally. So that's a big piece of work that we'll do over the next 30 days. The second one is lining the team up, right? So they understand the why, the where we're going and the how we'll get there. And I think that's a big piece, right? That sometimes at organizations people underestimate. And so I'll be spending a lot of time in that space. And then lastly, it's about getting it done, right? And my belief is that every great leader rolls up their sleeves, and the best leaders have dirty fingernails. They work shoulder to shoulder with their team. They're making sure that they're supporting them, they're helping them, they're aligning them, they're challenging them along the way, but they're always there to provide sort of a helping hand to the broader team and the broader enterprise. And so those are those three areas of focus and priorities for me over the next kind of 60 to 90 days.
Sounds like you have a lot coming up. So that's exciting. It's fantastic. We thank you so much for your time today. I know you're a busy, busy person, but we hope to see you again soon. And take care for now. Happy holidays as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you very much for having me, Chantal. I appreciate the time and the opportunity, and happy holidays to you as well.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.